Cashed in with both complimentary plays last night as the Tigers and Indians both delivered. A free play coming up in just a moment on the A's and the Angels. But the big news tonight, the NBA draft, the only draft that counts as far as I'm concerned. Listen, the NFL draft just doesn't do it for me. Oh, it's nice to look at where the quarterbacks are going. But, when they have that run on offensive tackles or on cornerbacks later in the first round, I'm sorry, that really just doesn't excite me. The NHL? Yeah, sure. I just can't wait to find out where that 18-year-old is going to spend the next 2 years developing in some Western league in the middle of Ontario or something, which shows you how little I follow the NHL, because I'm not even sure if what I said just made sense. The baseball draft? Hey, I'm thrilled that the Phillies had the number one pick. Check back in 4 or 5 years and let me know. But the great thing about the NBA draft, you're either going to make the team or you're not. You're either going to contribute or you won't. And it's not like the old days when I first used to cover the draft as a reporter when you had, 9, 10 rounds, I think it was. No, you got 2 little compact rounds. It's all done in one single day. It's not like the NFL, which, managed to make it a 3-day extravaganza now for TV purposes. 2 rounds, 1 night, gone. It's the best time. How about the trades yesterday? So the Knicks get Derrick Rose. Listen, it's not the Derrick Rose of 2012, but hey, it's Derrick Rose, and it's a hell of a lot better than what they've had in the backcourt the past few years. You know what I mean? And the Bulls, maybe it was addition through subtraction, because Rose and Jimmy Butler, weren't going to coexist. And if they get rid of Noah, well, they plug in Lopez, who had a very good season defensively for the Knicks, and he takes that spot at the center, and he may even become more valuable. Because who knows, maybe Noah and Gasol both leave as the Bulls rebuild. Phil Jackson, what did you have to lose? Yeah, you're taking on some more money, but listen, the Knicks can certainly afford it. Aren't they still playing Isaiah, for Christ's sake? And you get rid of Jose Calderon, and you get rid of Jerian Grant, and you get rid of a bunch of cash, and you get Derrick Rose, which is a hell of a better complementary player than anything else they had for Carmelo the last couple of years in the Big Apple. So why not? But I thought the best trade last night was the Jeff Teague trade. What a steal for Larry Bird and the Pacers. You get rid of George Hill, who, to me, was just one of the worst point guards in the NBA, period. Not a good shooter, not a pass-first point guard, rarely got the team going in terms of the transition game and playing up-tempo, which Bird was trying to emphasize, which ultimately led to Mike Vogel being fired as head coach and Nate McMillan being brought in, right? So they ship Hill out. And through the 3-way trade that's also involving the Utah Jazz, they get Jeff Teague from Atlanta. Now, Teague was injured last year. He claims he was playing with a torn patella tendon all season long. Whatever the case, he still had a decent season. But now you have a 28-year-old point guard that hopefully you can re-sign to another big contract next year, and you've got a guy to take some of the scoring pressure off of Paul George. Now, if they can just get Paul George, move him away from the number 4 over to the number 3 spot where he's more suited, Pacers could really have something going. But that's the beauty of the NBA draft tonight. Of course, Charles Barkley had to put his 2 cents in and once again stir up the pot by saying LeBron is never going to be a top 5 player. And let us just recall again who Charles says the top 5 players are. Michael Jordan. Gee, does anybody have any complaints there? Oscar Robertson, Bill Russell, Kareem, and Wilt. Now, the wonderful thing about statements like that is everybody gets to have their own opinion. And it's very hard to compare eras. I don't know. And I never saw Bill Russell play. He was gone long before I was around, okay? I don't know if Bill Russell, even though he had that monstrous 7'10" wingspan, at 6'9" and 5/8, I think he was officially measured at, what type of player would he be now? Would he be a defensive power forward, a guy who would give you maybe 12 points a game and be stellar defensively? Yeah, he shut down Wilt, but it was in a different era. It was a different era. Fewer teams, fewer athletes, not as good of a crew of athletes either. So I look at Bill Russell and I always cast a little bit of a wary eye on him in terms of being in that particular top 5 list. Just my opinion. Again, I never saw him. Never saw Wilt Chamberlain in his prime either. But Wilt Chamberlain, a guy who they had to change the rules for, a guy who was the offensive player of that era when he wanted to be. Okay? When they criticized Wood about not doing a great job on being a passer, he went in, 1 year average 25 assists? I mean, he could do whatever he wanted to when he wanted to. Absolutely deserves to be in that top 5 list. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, lengthy career, a lot of championships, etc. I don't know. I always looked at him as a guy that I thought could have done so much more. He just always left me wanting something more. The Big O, Oscar Robertson. I happened to see him in the first NBA game my dad ever took me to. Oh, God, it was in the 1970s. And, of course, he was not the Big O that he was back in the 60s. He was at the tail end of his career. But I do remember going, God, he was the best player on the floor. But then again, the 76ers, I think, won 9 games that year, so it wasn't hard to be the best player on the floor, even if you had bad knees. Never got to see him play. But that's where it opens up the debate. So I ask you, you mean Larry Bird isn't a top 5 player? Okay. I would certainly say Larry Bird is the equal to LeBron. Different types of styles, but different, same type of impacts on their teams. Magic Johnson, not a top 5 player. You say, okay, his career was shortened. Okay, I'll give you that. Kobe, not a top 5 player? Seriously? I got to put him in there, and I'm sorry. I would put Kobe Bryant in there in front of Oscar Robertson if you're looking at just at guard positions. Guard for guard, I'd make the switch. But again, I saw Kobe. I never saw the Big O in his prime, okay? Where does Tim Duncan go? Another guy who, because of his longevity, just like Kareem, outstanding career. Was he truly a dominant player in the league? I don't know. Again, so it's always open for discussion, and that's why I'll be tuned to the TV tonight. Of course, a lifelong Philadelphia 76ers fan. I'll be sitting there watching them hopefully take Ben Simmons and hopefully figure out a way to get another top 5 or top 8 pick as well without giving up Okafor, which I think would be a mistake. You see all that riffraff going about, hey, the Celtics would maybe give up the number 3 pick, which the 76ers would use to get Providence guard Chris Dunn if they got Okafor in that deal. Boy, I'm telling you, Okafor, okay, didn't show much interest in playing defense, let's put it nicely. And he certainly showed that he had a tendency to get in some legal problems last year, did he not? A few skirmishes, a few 100-mile-per-hour drives in his car across a bridge in Philadelphia. But, this is a guy who is going to turn into a 22-10, maybe a 22-12 player every single year for his career. Hard to give up a guy who has those type of offensive skills when he's so damn young. So anyway, that's the NBA draft tonight. Listen, all your promos, coupons, etc., you know where to find them. I'm not telling you anything new. Let's talk about the Angels game tonight against the A's, because I'm going to go with the Angels. I'm going to lay the 135 in this one. Tim Lincecum making his second start since being called up from the minor leagues after signing as a free agent with the Angels. You know the whole background about Lincecum. I don't have to go and tell you anything about that. But listen, he faced the A's last Saturday, gave up 1 run in 6 innings, 1 run, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. He is not the Tim Lincecum that was the Cy Young Award winner a few years back, actually many years back. He's not that guy anymore. But is he good enough to win tonight in Anaheim in his home debut for the Angels? I think so, and I think the Angels can get the job done against the A's. Listen, the A's are dead last in the American League in runs scored, in RBIs, in on-base percentage, in runs per game at 3.91. They're the only team in baseball averaging less than 4 runs a game, okay? You've got Kendall Graveman, I think that's how you pronounce his name, pitching for them tonight. This guy has a 2.97 earned run average and 6 home starts this season. The problem is they're playing at the Big A in Anaheim tonight. And on the road, 7.03 earned run average and 7 starts. 7.03 on the road, 2.97 at home. That's crazy. That is really, really crazy. Over 4 runs more per game given up on the road. And then you look at his stat line. 32 innings in those 7 road starts. That's all he's pitched, 32 innings. 45 hits. 10 of the 45 hits were home runs. And he's also walked 15 batters. So that's 60 base runners in 32 innings. I mean, he never goes into a full windup. He's got to be pitching from the stretch because, every time he looks around, there's a guy on first, there's a guy on third, maybe there's a guy on second. So I'm going to go with the Angels minus $1.35 or so tonight, and that will be your free play. Good luck, everybody. Enjoy the draft. We'll talk again tomorrow. Take care.